Township Board of Education meeting. Roll call, Mrs. Slum, please.
Dr. Cordolino? Here. Mr. Daughtry?
Here.
Mrs. Fano? Dr. Modrak?
Here.
Mr. O'Brien?
Here.
Mr. Rappaport?
Here.
Ms. Zuckerman? Here. Mr. Palma?
Here.
Mr. Grau?
Here.
Mr. Arena?
Here.
Mr. Ristesi?
Here. Flag salute, please.
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend any meetings of public bodies at which their interests are discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Montville Township Board of Education provided a public notice of this meeting, which included the time, date, and location, that was posted at the Montville Township Municipal Building, all Montville Public Schools, the Montville Public Library, the Montville Township Board of Education Administrative Office Building, the district website, and advertised in the Daily Record, the board's official newspaper, on June 23rd, 2021.
Thank you, Christine. Who would like to go first, Dave or Phil? Daniel or Phil? I'll make it easy. Phil will go first.
We got some news from PHS to start off. The week of October 4th to October 8th was the week of respect, in which we highlighted the importance of the safe and respectful learning environment. Schools and organizations such as PAL, Local Diversity Club, the GSA, International Concerns Club, and Women's STEM work together to create a week of theme days centered around standing against bullying and learning to respect others. Also, school was closed on October 11th for the observation of Indigenous Peoples and Women's Day. GSATs were taken on October 3rd, and that also marks the midpoint of marking period 1. Saturday, October 17th through Friday, October 23rd was America's Safe Schools Week, a week for students, parents, and community members to encourage the community to make their school safety a priority. And yesterday and today were picture day for grades 9 to 11. I hope those smiles are big. In current news, this week marks Red Ribbon Week, a campaign that brings awareness to alcohol, tobacco, and other drug and violence prevention. Today, students were read in honor of Red Ribbon Week and will be asked to Montville here on Thursday to continue the awareness. In future news, next week marks Solidarity Week, hosted by the Gay Straight Alliance in support of the LGBTQIA+ community. Students are asked to wear red, orange, and yellow on Monday, green, blue, and purple on Tuesday, and then rainbow on Wednesday. October 31st is Halloween. I'm hoping to see some fun costumes this year. The only thing scarier than Halloween is college applications. I just want to say good luck to all the seniors. Applying for early action by November 1st. And also next week, school will be closed on Thursday and Friday for the NGEA Teachers Convention. And then senior banquet tickets will begin sales on November 1st and November 12th. And it will be held at El Pucano on December 3rd.
Before we have Dan give his report, I'd like to congratulate Philip because he was the king of the homecoming. and I know that I forgot to mention this last time. Congratulations, Philip, on your kingdom. Thank you. Dan?
So I'll give the sports update. So the football team had undoubtedly the game of the year this past Friday night. It was a wild 30-27 double overtime victory. The Mustangs were down 24-7 early in the fourth quarter. And despite the game to that point, the fans hung strong and stuck it out until the final game-winning touchdown run by quarterback Christian Perez. And it was also the senior night for the team, as well as for the marching band and cheerleaders. So we thank all of them for their hard work and continued dedication to MTHS. The boys soccer team, since losing their county tournament matchup 3 weeks ago, have rattled off 8 straight victories and now boast a record of 11-2. Key addition Christian Lagrasso has made a huge difference for the Mustangs, and juniors Ian Kaiser and Patrick Ferrari continue to pace the scoring for the team. They still have 2 matchups with Delvarne upcoming before they embark on their state tournament run. The girls soccer team took down Pope John last week with a score of 2-0. The young girls team is still taking strides this year. They're looking forward to adding a couple more wins before their state tournament. and seniors Bella Rachowski, Alex Quinn, and Ashley Campbell have anchored the girls team this year, and we thank all the seniors for their dedication. The girls tennis team finished off their regular season this past week after being eliminated in the second round of the state tournament by Pascack Hills. The girls finished the season at 8-9 after an exciting back and forth run. We thank all the seniors for their hard work this year on the court. The field hockey team has had an unbelievable run this year and is now your 2021 NJAC National Conference champion for the first time since 1987. They're 13-4 for the season and will now finish their season with their state tournament. We wish them the best of luck and thank all the seniors for delivering an incredible final season. The volleyball team is enjoying their excellent season as they're now 10-8 with just 2 games left in the regular season before their state tournament. In their game tomorrow, they'll be hosting a blackout theme for the fans, as well as selling t-shirts with all proceeds going to pediatric cancer patients in New Jersey. We hope they have a big turnout tomorrow and wish the ladies the best of luck in their final games. And finally, the cross-country team is in the thick of their conference and county tournament meet. They had some notable finishes last week, with Danny Gogorski finishing 9th and Alex Pilog placing 10th. Both runners finished under 17 minutes in the 5K. We wish them luck as they will run their conference championship meet tomorrow.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions for Dan or Philip? Yes, that was a great game, but I chickened out at the end of the third quarter. I got cold. But I followed it on Twitter, and Mr. O'Brien gave us a blow-by-blow as an email that evening. There was a crowd, was great. Okay, superintendent's report, Dr. Rotar?
I am going to turn things over to Dr. Shorter for his annual report on the student performance and accomplishments for the prior school year.
Okay, good evening, everybody.
Yeah, sorry, no, sorry, my mic was on. I'm turning things over to Dr. Shorter for the annual student performance and accomplishments report for the 2021 school year.
Thank you, Renee. I apologize for the location of only one screen. We're unable to sync the television screens, so we have to just project it on the one screen up front. As Dr. Rotar mentioned, tonight we have somewhat of an abbreviated report, similar to last year, because of the circumstances connected to the pandemic. So I have about a dozen slides to share some annual report and performance items with you that our district accomplished and our students did as well. I guess the first bit of news, which really isn't news, this was the second year in a row that we were unable to administer the NJSLA. The state canceled that testing for the spring. This was the second year in a row, and typically during this presentation, there's probably 5 or 6 different slides that highlight some of the areas of student performance on the NJSLA, but obviously because of the pandemic, it wasn't administered, so that portion won't be present in tonight's presentation. But some good news. The national merit data over the last 3 years, as you can see there, we had a slight increase in those areas across the board from last year's presentation. And this information is connected to the PSATs that are administered every year to our students, and students that meet certain data point thresholds on the PSAT qualify for various recognitions, and these are the 4 recognitions that students qualify for. So overall, we did pretty consistent with how we've done in the past. The next screen talks about our advanced placements, and you'll probably see some numbers that jump out at you, specifically in the bullet points. We had 80% of our students, which is generally around the range that we score annually, of a 3 or higher, and if you remember, a score of 3 or 5 to 5 is considered passing and may be considered for college credit. The number in the parentheses and each one of those bullet points were the number of students that scored in that range the prior year. And you can see that in each one of those areas, the students receiving a 5, 4, and 3, for the most part, due to the circumstances this year and remote learning, a number of students decided not to test the BB exams. So I would say probably up to 50% number as a general estimate. However, the amount of students scoring a 3 or higher was still a very good percentage and pretty consistent with years in the past. It's just the overall numbers were a bit down. Those students that actually sat for the test. And if you bear with me, I'll share with you a little bit about each one of these categories. One of them up there is actually brand new, the AP International Diploma. We had one student who qualified for that through AP testing, and I'll share with you a little bit about each one of these. The AP International Diploma is new and it's unique. This is granted to students who receive a score of 3 or higher on 5 or more AP exams and demonstrate excellence within a global perspective. And what that means is students who score within that range, typically it's on one of the world language AP tests, and they either attend a college outside of the United States, or at least they apply to colleges outside of the United States. And doing such, qualifies them for that recognition. So we had one of those this year, which was a new category. AP Scholar with Honor is granted to students who receive an average score of at least 3.25 on all AP exams taken, and scored 3 or higher on 4 or more of these exams. So we had 17 students, score that this year. For AP Scholar with Distinction, those are for students who receive an average score of 3.5 on all AP exams, and scored 3 or higher on 5 or more of these exams. So as you can see that we had 45 students fall into that category this year. And then finally, the National AP Scholar, we had 21 students. And that's granted to students who receive an average score of at least a 4 on all AP exams taken, and that's 4 or higher on 8 or more of these exams. So that's students that fall in the category that take at least 8 AP exams over the course of their high school career. So, here's our SAT score test last year. These were actually higher than they have been traditionally. While at the same time, the state and national numbers were also a little bit higher. And we think this is because fewer students took the SAT test due to the circumstances, and those students who decided to take it tended to be some of our more capable students. And we think that's why our scores have increased, and that's pretty consistent with the state and the nation. It wasn't a significant increase, but it was higher in both of those areas than we traditionally scored and what I presented on an annual basis here for the last few years. Just some student accomplishments. For probably the last 10 years or so that I've been doing this, the forensics team is always one of the first things that we mention. Despite some of the challenges that the pandemic brought to us this year, they continue to perform very well in multiple national tournaments, qualifying for the National Speech and Debate Tournament in 10 categories, and 3rd place finish in New Jersey. So that's always an area that we like to brag about a little bit, as the district can talk about. We also, saw 4 students awarded top prizes at the Walker Regional Valley Art Show. So we continue to be strong in the area of the arts. And also FBLA, we're very active over the COVID year. They're in 4th place in the State Leadership Conference, and through individual and team competitions, we took home 3 second-place trophies, 4 fourth-place trophies, and 2 fifth-place trophies. So despite some of the challenges that the year presented to us, we were able to compete in various clubs and extracurricular activities. In the area of athletics, again, there were some limited tournaments and some limited schedules because of our circumstances, but nonetheless, our boys soccer team was the Group 3 sectional champions. We had a couple of conference championships, the boys basketball and bowling. Our bowling is, as a matter of fact, ranked number 1 in New Jersey. So we always seem to put a strong bowling team out there year after year. We were the NJAC United Division champs in track and field, and we had a 2nd place finish in North One Group 3 boys golf. We had a few individual accomplishments. I think for the 2nd year in a row, we had a student who earned the Morris County Player of the Year in girls basketball. So that was a nice recognition, which I believe was 2 years in a row for us. We had 2 wrestlers that reached the state tournament, and we had 2 students who earned individual county and sectional championships in track and field. Our 2021 graduates, nearly 94% attended college or university. You can see the breakdown there. 4-year college is about 85%, 2-year college around 9%, and 6.1% chose to engage in other endeavors, business, military, deployment, gap year. So that number is slightly up from past. So our numbers attending 4-year colleges and 2-year colleges are relatively high. And as always, I like to include a few slides on some of the acceptances over the last 3 years. And our 3 slides have those in the presentations. But a long list of colleges that our students are accepted to, we feel pretty good about that. So as I mentioned, it's a relatively abbreviated performance report, but nonetheless, I think it was pretty impressive one considering some of the challenges that we faced last year. Anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Shorter.
Thank you, Dr. Shorter. Report.
That concludes my report.
Conclusion superintendent's report. We have, the good news is normal from most of our schools listed on the agenda. The business administrator's report, any report, Mr. Slump?
No report.
Okay. Committee reports, finance, facilities.
Thank you, Charlie, and thank you, Dr. Shorter, for that report. Currently, we are undergoing our yearly audit. It's underway right now. The committee discussed our projected financial position as of now, and it's good. We were provided a summary status of construction and technology projects, and I hope all of you have noticed improvement in the appearance of our facilities, both outside and inside. The committee discussed a maintenance position for the HVAC. We have over 300 HVAC units at any given time. One may be, or more may be in need of repair. So this position is being contemplated. The district has contacted the Montville Police Department to conduct a traffic study, transportation study, to assess various routes in town which may be considered dangerous. We will then take the recommendations and review that. And that really concludes the report from facilities and finance, just from this evening.
Thank you, Karen. Curriculum, Dave?
No report.
No report. Policy, I don't think we have any from them.
Charlie?
We do have a report?
Yes, we've seen that.
Oh, a couple weeks ago, that's right, go ahead.
The Policy and Personnel Committee recently reviewed 3 new policies and considered changes for 1 existing policy and regulation on October 11th. The new policies reviewed include school employee vaccination requirements, safety plans for healthcare settings in school buildings, and emergency virtual or remote instruction programs. Changes made to the district's current sexual harassment and student policy and regulations were also reviewed. All of the above mentioned, the policies and regulations were approved by the committee and are next agenda for first reading.
Thank you. Communications, Michelle?
We're scheduling the meeting for the next couple of weeks.
Safety and security, Mike?
No report.
Ad hoc, the MTAA, although it's not an ad hoc committee, you'll notice on item L8, we are approving a 3-year contract with the Montville Township Administrators Association, retroactive to July 1st. I'd like to thank the members of the team. I was the chair. We received input from Mr. Rappaport and Mr. O'Brien and Dr. Rothar, our superintendent. I'd like to thank the administrators and the members of my committee for their efforts in getting this settlement. Delegate liaison, school boards, Karen?
Thank you, Charlie. Right now, starting today, New Jersey School Board Association's Workshop 2021 opened in a virtual format. It is unfortunate that it continues to be presented in a virtual format, but this was a decision made by NJSBA after many surveys and requesting input from various stakeholders. So it is virtual this year. Hopefully next year will be in person. It will run through Thursday, and I have the privilege of recording an introduction to one of the student performances, so I'm excited about that.
Thank you, Karen. Morris County, Michael Byrne?
I don't have a report from Morris County. We met last week. I don't, we didn't
Professional Services Commission, Mike Rappaport.
Yes, we met on October 13th, and I think Dave was talking about, but there's a lot of little things. First is getting the process in place for requiring the staff to get vaccinated or to report negative testing. And here, they're still going through the process of getting that organized, and hopefully they can get testing on site as well. There's been some staffing issues. MCESC does place some staff within public and private schools for various reasons. And there's some difficulty filling some of those positions because some of the private schools have different levels of protocol than maybe the public schools have. And understanding that the staff would need to meet those certain levels of protocols made it a little more difficult to fill those positions. But so far, they found qualified people for all those positions. Something that, as the year goes on, could be issues going forward. Also, emergency aid to non-public schools grant has been awarded about $4.5 million. The MCESC is waiting for instructions on how to officially request that money and the instructions on how to distribute it to the non-public schools. And our next meeting is Wednesday, November 11th.
Number one.
November 11th.
Thank you. Drug awareness, Mr. Palmer?
Yes, we met back on October 6th, and I think it's a things relevant to the board. We talked about REACH. Right now, there's some 50 kids from the high school involved in REACH, and that's a good thing to turn out. We brainstormed on some possible ideas for post-graduation celebrations. Obviously, we didn't do anything last year, but again, we're in the brainstorming stage. We still have time. And talking about the lawn signs, you recall last year, BAC made available lawn signs. I think a number of schools participated. I think the high schoolers are, and either one or two of the elementary schools, and made about $2,500. And they're looking to hopefully do that again this year and hopefully have even a better result.
Thank you, Mike. Montville Athletic Boosters, Mr. O'Brien?
The athletic boosters will meet a week from tomorrow, the 3rd. Okay, and I might mention as well, the marching band banquet will be the following Monday.
Thank you. PTC liaison, Cedar Hill, Karen?
No report, Carol.
Nothing from Hilldale. Joe, Valley View?
Our next meeting is in January.
Nothing from Mason, Christine's not here. Woodmont, Mike?
Tomorrow.
Middle school?
Yeah, so they had a meeting October 18th. It was virtual. They talked about things going on, including violence awareness week and the activities going on then. They also talked about living lessons. That's going to be occurring in May. They are doing, they're raising money. That tonight they were doing a walkathon to try to raise money. I'm sure they would appreciate any donations. That means you might want to send away. They talked about 6th grade activity night. They are canceling that in the fall. They're going to try to do something in the spring. 8th grade trip. They are trying to plan an outdoor option. Yeah, they had some food service concerns over at the middle school. They switched the menu unexpectedly, and they're just trying to work through the difficulties with new management. New managers are there. The teachers appreciated the breakfast they were given after back to school night, and the kids are enjoying being back in school. So, they were also given a new piece of metal art with that depicts the Pledge of Allegiance that goes in giving everybody. So that's about it.
Thank you, Dave. High school?
Next meeting is November 8th. I guess the PTC would, I think, appreciate a shout out about their cookie dough fundraiser in conjunction with Landauer Cafe, the PTC at the high school. typically you can't run fundraisers the way the elementaries do because there's so many other organizations, the sports and whatnot. So I know they'd appreciate people's support in this fundraiser this year.
Thank you, Michelle. Public participation is an opportunity for the public to ask any question on agenda items. Do we have any questions on agenda items? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion for items 1 through N with the J7 as an agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions on item J, K, L, M, N? I think that's where we ended. Mrs. Slunk, roll call vote, please.
Dr. Cordolino? Yes. Dr. Modrak?
Yes.
Mr. Daughtry?
Yes, abstain on K1, check number 1309.
Mr. O'Brien?
Aye.
Mr. Rappaport?
Yes.
Ms. Zuckerman?
Yes.
Mr. Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Grau?
Yes. Section P, there's no reason for us to have a closed session this evening. Section Q, any old business of the board? Section R, any general board comment or new business at this time? Okay, section S is an opportunity for the public to ask questions, comments, give their comments on any items. So if you'd like to step forward, introduce yourself, we will do that. If there are no questions, oh, here comes someone. It's a long walk up there, huh? I think we have a mic there, good.
Thank you. Pete Walsh, Waco. First, I want to thank the board for their decision to let Mr. Edelstein go. I think that was a good decision. I believe politics should stay out of the Board of Education. I've debated back and forth whether I should bring this up or not for months. And to be honest with you, I can't not bring it up anymore. I'm an independent voter. I vote for Democrats. I vote for Republicans. All over the spectrum. I look for people who are leaders, the highest level, all the way down to my local level. So I respect all of you for getting up and standing up, being representatives of our community. I moved to Montville in 2016. 2 kids. One's at lacrosse practice right now. I'd rather be watching him, but I'm here because I'm compelled to. What I see in the country overall is craziness. Everybody sees that. From the highest level all the way down. And we have an election next week, which I'm not going to get into. Local board of ed, all the way up to the governor in the state. I keep on going back and forth, but I'm just going to go with it. So I'm a very detailed person. I like to research. I do read my journals, do the data on COVID, back and forth. I've been coming here for 18 months, whatever this is. I never stepped in a board of ed meeting prior to COVID because, no offense, I have better things to do. I'm sure you guys do too, so wait and listen to me. Upon my scanning, randomly, through the nights, I like to know who I'm talking to and who I'm dealing with. And going through LinkedIn to Facebook pages, all up and down. So I have a question, or a couple questions, for the board. When I was going through some Facebook posts, one board member compared all Republicans to pedophiles.
Dr. Walsh, I'm just gonna have to, indicate the election, we're not discussing tonight.
I'm not discussing the election.
And I think that questioning the board members, if you have a question that you would like to ask that individual board member, fine, but we're not here to answer questions that you picked up on Facebook or something of that nature.
Sounds good. So my question to the board then is, does the board believe that a board member who posts things like that should he be on the board, or he or she be on the board in our community, representing Montville?
Excuse me?
Representing Montville, should that kind of person be on the Board of Education making decisions for my children?
I haven't seen the post, okay? I know I got a lot of emails, so I'm not going to respond. I'll ask our attorney if she has any words of wisdom about asking board members questions. We've always used this as a comment section, not as a question section. So it's a public comment, Dr. Walsh, and it's an opportunity for you to ask your questions, okay?
Okay, so for the record, the board does not have a position on a board
I think
member?
it's a loaded question. I think that, you know.
It is, I agree.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to answer the question, so I'm trying to get some sort of answer about what my board represents. And my opinion, since you asked it, me just make a comment.
We're listening for your
My
comment.
opinion is that kind of board member should not be representing Montville in any fashion.
Okay. That's your comment, and that's great, and, you know, I don't know who you're talking about at this point, but
I'd rather not bring it up.
I'd rather not mention the name. And, you know you have 5 minutes for comments, so please continue.
There's really nothing else to say to that. I'd rather see some sort of, you're not going to, I get that. That's but you're all individual people, right? Even though you're a board, individual members are they allowed to say whether they support someone who posts those kinds of vile comments or not?
I would ask our attorney to get involved now, because this is getting into personnel items.
If somebody wishes to respond, they're certainly free to respond, but they have no obligation to its public comment.
Right, so they have no obligation to, but they're able to.
But you're also asking them to speak at it without maybe knowing what the comment is.
Well, I've asked them, a couple of them individually on Messenger and reached out to them, and they didn't answer. They want to know who it was. It's like that makes the difference who it is first before they respond whether they think that person should be on the board or not.
Like Dr. Walsh, I'm going to ask you to come back.
I think it's, we don't even know what you're talking about, but I think it's unfair to ask us to comment on that.
Well, again, it's pretty straightforward.
It's a pretty straightforward question.
Whether you think someone should post something like that and represent Montville, who compares all Republicans.
We're not partisan or any of that stuff,
It's
so
pretty
please
straightforward.
stay away from political things in the election. Over your 5 minutes, I will give you an opportunity at the end if you'd like to come back up, but we have other people that would like to speak now, so if you could just bear with us and I'll hear them, and if you'd like to come back up later, we'll be happy to hear you. Okay? Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak before the board at this time? Anybody else? All right, Dr. Walsh, did you have another comment?
I'm not going to answer that.
Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn at this point.
So moved.
Second, please. All in favor? Aye.